I feel good. I feel great. I feel wonderful as far as news is concerned. American death rate rises for the first time in a decade. Unfortunately, thanks to an increase in drug overdoses, suicides, and Alzheimer's disease. The death rate in the United States rose last year for the first time since 2005. There were 729.5 deaths per 100,000 people in 2015, and that is up from 2014's 723.2. It's too early to say, but experts are saying that there's a possibility 2016, 2017 is those rates are going to skyrocket, and that's mostly because of these epidemics of drug overdoses, suicides, and of course Alzheimer's disease. To a rise in drug overdoses. This is verbatim. To a rise in drug overdoses among white working class Americans. Cases of suicide and Alzheimer's disease are also on the rise. What's funny to me is I didn't know that small percentage of 723 in 2014 to 729.5 in 2015 is the first increase in 10 years. I don't know, I feel like, people died more throughout the past 10 years than we are right now, but, I guess statistics don't lie. A woman who spent 6 days in a drunk tank, pause, if you're drunk, isn't a drunk tank supposed to maintain you for 24 to 48 hours to just make sure you sober up? She said that she was humiliated and embarrassed. She sues Indiana jail for refusing to hand out tampons and telling inmates to shut up when they ask for them. Her name is Melissa Howling. She was booked into Clark County Jail for 6 days in 2014. She says she was ignored when she asked officers for hygiene products. The 36-year-old woman claims that this had violated her human rights, and she has now filed a lawsuit and is suing the officials of the Clark County Jail. One of the things that I really hate, and I know as far as like our Constitution is concerned, we have the right to due process in like a timely manner. And I've always wondered, what does that mean, a timely manner? Because what's timely for my impatient ass may not be timely for the next person who can wait a year and a half before they end up suing. No, as soon as I come out of jail, we're calling Danny Osina. Let's get ready to sue. Because while I was in there, I was going through some womanhoods and they didn't treat me properly. Why do people wait so long? And I hate that the court process takes so long. And one of the things that we know has backed up the courts is the fact that we have hundreds and even hundreds of thousands of cases, drug-related, non-violent offenders that are going before a judge, taking up all of this time. So people that actually should be in court have to wait 2 and 3 months. And I think it's insane. If you try and get like a child support date, you have to wait 3 to 4 months before you can even see a judge. If you're begging for custody because you have somebody who's crazy enough to go out of town, I don't know. I really think that we could do better as far as our court process is concerned. As in other news, a Mississippi woman gets a court order to eat her placenta. I know these are really crazy stories, but you're not going to hear them anywhere else. To eat her placenta after giving birth because the hospital told her it was property, it was their property, and it was medical waste. And she's like, no, I knew I should have gave birth at home. She didn't say that, but I would advise if you want to eat your placenta, baby, if you want your child to take all the nutrients out of that umbilical cord, and science is saying now that that's how it's supposed to be. The baby doesn't come out and you just cut an umbilical cord. Once upon a time, that's how it was in the olden days. You remember back in the olden house? In all seriousness, back in the day, people used to wait until the umbilical cord dried up so the baby got all of those important nutrients and then cut it. So I had a friend of mine, very I thought I was like organic, earthy, crunchy. Not at all. Nothing in comparison. And what she told me was, years before, they used to, let the placenta dry up, and the umbilical cord on the baby's belly used to fall off within hours. It takes days now because it's still trying to get those nutrients out of the that itty bitty piece that the baby's left with, that it's supposed to have in that long cord. And I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. It's not in the sense of it drying up. You have to wait for it to fall off. You have to wait until all those nutrients are inside the baby. And if it's, in a sense, starving because you cut the rest of it off, it gave me a completely different perspective. But Jordan Thering wanted to keep a placenta after giving birth to a son. She mentioned wanting to eat her placenta to a doctor during a visit. They told her to ask the hospital about their policies regarding the placenta. River Oaks Hospital required Thering to get a court order due to the regulations. The Mississippi Department of Health calls the mother a third party to the placenta. I'm sorry, something that came out of my body is third party, but I also go back to Monday's show. I loved it. You guys were rolling over when we were over here having great conversation. So please go back. But Monday's show, when we discussed that a child is a ward of the state. Your child's birth certificate, that African American, you have no heritage as an African American. You have no legal rights to land as an African American. Once you start, getting your birth certificates ready for you being an indigenous person, that's what we talked about on Monday. Thering was granted the court order on May 17th by a Mississippi judge, and this is unprecedented case. So they're looking and wondering whether or not they're going to see more of these. Now that Jordan Thering's case cleared, many mothers may have to get court orders because they are going to be third parties in their placenta eating, wanting my umbilical cord to dry up because the hospital's like, listen, cut and dry. This is what we do. You only got policies, have a birth at home, which I would advise. And we have amazing women that have been in the studio already that are birth canal soothers, healers. I forgot the name of them, but they're not midwives. They're like, I forgot the name of it. Somebody's in their car right now, like, da-da-da. That's what it is. Currently, we have on the line a caller, Good Rising Caller, you live.
Good morning, Tayla. This is the first transaction. Brutality.
Oh, baby, your phone is all the way broken up.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, hold on. Let me get set up. My name is Sarah. I'm from Mass Action Against Police Brutality. And I just want to call in and tell people what's going on today in Boston.
Let us know, baby. What's going on today?
All right. We have for
Oh, Lord. You started breaking up all over again.
Oh, no. You can mess with me, They must be messing with me. Can you hear me?
The devil is a lie.
Yeah. Okay, so 1 year ago today, Usama Rahim was killed in Rosendale, right in front of a CVS. Do you remember that?
Absolutely. The man that was killed in front of the kids on the bus, right?
Yes. There was a school bus right there. It's in the video. They took the shots right in front of the school bus and everybody else at 7 o'clock in the morning while he was on his way to work. So there was outrage when people found out, they just shot a black man, in broad daylight with no provocation. But then once the media started laying on, accusations or the fact that he was an alleged terrorist, or the idea that he was an alleged terrorist, then everybody backed off. And so the family was left with, a son that had died, and his nephew was put in solitary confinement and has been to this very day right now. And if you look at the case, which not too many people have, unfortunately, it's all based on just conjecture. on private conversations that were, wiretapped. The fact of the matter is he did not commit any crime, yet the only crime that occurred was an unlawful arrest. When the Joint Terrorism Task Force surrounded him, it's very hard to see this in the video, but they did surround him. There were members, it was composed of members of the FBI and the Boston police. They didn't have any warrant for arrest. They didn't have any of that. In fact, perhaps, and this is just my idea here, they didn't have any intention on arresting him. Let me just get right into the 5 demands that the family has, because we are out there not just as ourselves, but as supporters of the family. And the first is the indictment and full prosecution of all police, FBI, and others involved in the military tactical assassination of Al-Hajj Osama Rahim. Full and complete investigation of all officers and personnel involved in the murder and plotting for the murder of Osama Rahim. Release of the full unedited video of the shooting of Al-Hajj Osama Rahim to the public. An immediate release of David Wright, who has been in prison in solitary confinement since June 2nd, 2015, and dropping of all charges against David Wright. Free David Wright. Stop the targeting of Blacks and Muslims. So those are the 5 demands. We want to make sure that we get those out to everybody, including the press. It seems that this is a case where the press seems to have tried and convicted him already just by throwing around that word terror.
So really quickly, I'm sorry to interject, but this is the case of the man that was shot all the way in Roslindale, broad daylight, 7 a.m. in the morning, and I felt like it was swept under the rug, and it was like he liked an ISIS page Facebook post, and that was the extent of his ISIS link. It was no like terrorism. He was part of a group. Isn't his brother like a clergyman at a mosque or something? But I remember it was something so small that it was like a like on a Facebook ISIS post or something like that.
Exactly. So they pulled together what I see as a harebrained story, harebrained narrative. And in the wording that they use, because June 2nd, 2015 has a lot of significance. If you look at it, the Patriot Act expired on May 31st, 2015, and the Senate was up all night past that deadline trying to figure out what to do next to stay in people's business. So they finally made their decision, but by then it was June 1st, 2015. So they made their new decision about how to continue enforcing aspects of the Patriot Act, and they called it the Freedom Act, and it went into effect June 2nd, 2015. 7 a.m. that same.
So hold on, baby, for those who don't understand, what does that mean? The difference between June 1st and June 2nd and the Patriot Act? Well, what, for those who don't understand, what does that mean?
Well, long story short, you can definitely look up those, the particulars, but the government needs extra legal support in order to violate people's privacy. And in order to do things that we would normally say are not safe, are not fair in the efforts to prevent terror attacks. So in this case, they didn't have any laws on their side on June 1st, but on June 2nd, they could go ahead with it because the Freedom Act was in effect. So
from my understanding, currently, solitary confinement, they're saying, is against people's constitutional rights. Like, it causes all types of mental illness, and they're looking to ban for long periods of time. And I think a year is a long period of time for this young man to be in jail, solitary confinement. And has he been charged with anything? Has he been persecuted for anything?
He's been charged with a number of things, and one of those things is conspiracy, which is extremely hard to prove.
Hold on, they can lock me up.
Right? No, because seriously, if you look at the affidavit, it is like a very simple child's fairy tale, and then the end. He just sits there in jail. And as he maintains his innocence, then more charges are layered on. I don't understand how after 8 months, almost a year of being locked away, more charges can be added. So that is what is happening. That is what David Wright is dealing with. Unfortunately, the family is not advised to speak on it right now. I'm not a spokesperson at all for the family. I'm just simply, a concerned person. And I hope there are more of us out here.
But baby, at any point in time, is this man guilty? Like, are we having a conversation about a guilty man that's currently dead that we like, who cares? Like, he definitely was part of some illegal activity. He got what he deserved. His nephew got what he deserved. America is a safer place. Go Patriot Act.
Well, yeah, I mean, and let's just rock our Boston Strong t-shirts all day without really looking at what the facts are here. It's important to look at the facts, and the facts are, in the language that the Joint Terrorism Task Force felt that it was necessary to pursue these people. They were supposedly providing support to a network. Now, just liking the Facebook page is providing support. Now, I know on Facebook, I might like a particular saying or a particular article that's on someone's Facebook page. That doesn't mean I read the whole page. That doesn't mean I endorse everything,
What do they say on Twitter? Retweet does not mean endorsement.
Basically, so this, I personally did not know him, but I felt that when it happened, I read
there was some fuckery. I would say that we did report it.
Stated in the media so quickly after the shooting, and I felt like, wow, what if I'm eating bird chirp, I'm on my way to work with the skip in my steps. All of a sudden, people, I'm on the flip with a family member, and this family member has to hear me get killed.
So this is what I would love to do, because we came to the top of the hour. I would love to get into Power Hour. Could you put all of the information on the Tayla Andre page so people can do their own due diligence and come to their own conclusion of whether there's guilt or innocence, or, if that's the case, I wonder how many of us could be on that, support line, or, I watch a few videos on some sites that I shouldn't be on. They're gory videos, they're horrible videos, but I've watched them, I've shared them, I've commented on them. And if that's the case, then I'm guilty as well. So please put that information on Tayla Andre, and we'll let people read for themselves, do their own diligence, and come to their own conclusion. But there is a walk today to kind of not recreate, but walk in his steps, even though they could have kicked in the door waving the 4-4 at 5 a.m. instead of killing him in broad daylight in front of children.
Yeah. So we're going to be meeting at Rosendale Square at 6 o'clock today and walking up to the site of Stony Brook Plaza. Keep in mind, this is not Stony Brook in JP. This is all the way up in Rosendale, the neighborhood that he loves. So we're going to be out there, and we want everybody who is concerned. You do not necessarily have to know all of the details. This is basically a mystery. But we want to show the family support, and we want to support ourselves as a community and stand up for what is right. There was another case with a man who was wielding a knife in Springfield just a couple weeks ago, and he was taken away alive. Difference is he was a white man. Difference is he was not Muslim. So I think, inside conversations that are had between family members, inside jokes, no one can be an expert on those except for the people who are actually there. So Mr. Hume did not, in fact, commit any crime, and we want to make sure that we stand up to the fact his life was taken and it was completely unnecessary. The Drug Terrorism Task Force has blood on their hands.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. Love and appreciate you. I would urge everybody to do their own due diligence. And the reason why I say that is because we don't know guilt, we don't know innocence, but we do know the media. And we do know the media has its way of framing certain situations and making us feel literally some type of way. And one of the things that I would love for you to understand is based on private conversations that you've had with friends, family, and please don't take this out of context, but how many people have been pissed off and said something like, man, if I had a gun, I'd shoot them in the head. And that right there, that one sentence was then completely taken out of context. And now you're guilty of a crime that you didn't commit simply because you spoke on it. I'll just leave that there. You don't have to agree. You don't have to disagree. I have a message over here that says that it's a Islamophobic lynching. So I do feel like Donald Trump has trumped us up on our feelings about Muslims, our feelings about women, Black, Mexicans, damn near everyone other than a white male. But it is what it is. This is America. You don't have to agree, but you definitely can call 617-282-0062. We are coming to the top of the hour. We have such an amazing conversation for you that needs to be had. 617-282-0062. I'm going to play you a quick song. Shout out to Dutch Rebel. I absolutely love her. Shout out to those that are in our city that are putting on for our city. Wow. We'll be right back. Big City 101.3 FM, Waking Up with Tayla Andre, Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7. Mwah. Good rising.
This one's for mine. This one's for my hood, this one's for mine. Oh, this one's for your soul. This one's for my hustler, stacking bread up on the low. Only pass the blunt to all the homies that we know. Only run from cops and when them hands come out windows, they bout to air it out.
Yep, so whoever's going to be speaking the most can sit on my left.
Okay.
And then you can sit right here. And I just need you to, of course, project. You guys know in that business, just project. That mic can be a little low at times.
How far do you want me to sit from it?
Put it on your lip, but as grown women, we're not gonna say that. And it's not Freaky Friday. But yes, definitely close to the microphone and project your voice as loud as you can. Does anybody have any quarrels about being on recorded?
No.
Okay, good. Because we are recording.
Do you do ticket giveaways?
Yes, please.
Or can we set that? I'm just. Somebody
Absolutely.
just asked me about it yesterday.
How do we do that?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
what would
So
be the easiest.
And we have a week.
Yeah.
A week left.
Exactly.
So how many tickets that you want to give away? We can definitely do that.
So there's two shows. There's one that's focused on the teens, and the adults. That's a free show on Thursday. And the Saturday show where we're trying to get adults and families to come.
Okay.
And that one, the tickets are
It says the info on it.
Thank you. Body and soul.
So the free show is 4:30 on Thursday,
Okay.
and the
So for the youth.
it's it's more going to have use in it, but anybody can come to it if they want. And then Saturday night is 7:30, and that'll be for anybody. But that'll be ticketed, but there will be discounts, and it will be free tickets.
And I don't know whether they should. Trying to think what's the best way. The night they could just show up at the door and say that they got the ticket through.
Well, they need to have something from you that says.
Mhm. So I'll just pass along names.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll pass
Yeah,
along
that
names to
makes
James, yeah, that probably.
yeah.
So for the Thursday show, we've been looking for youth programs, center directors or whatever to bring kids in groups. We're looking for.
We can say that. We
Yeah.
can say that. So I butcher names all the time. That's my specialty. Your name is
Deborah Fortson. Deborah Lake Fortson. It's on the flyer too.
Deborah Fortson,
Mm-hmm.
Lake Fortson, and Jackie Parker.
No.
No.
Amy Merrill.
Amy Merrill. Let me.
Amy's the producer and Jackie's the director.
Okay.
But you could mention that it's Jackie Parker because a lot of folks
She has
know
a
her
following.
in this area. She runs Our Place Theater.
Okay. Okay. So come closer because as soon as we. Amy Merrill. Big City 101.3 FM, waking up with Tayla Andre, Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7. Good rising, kings and queens. How are you feeling? So one of the things that we are going to discuss today is very, very important. Since 2007, actually, let's just start with 2016. In 2016, 1,654 human trafficking cases have been reported. You want to know what's hard to swallow about that? Is that most cases aren't reported. As of now, total victims have been 27,187. 27,187. What's really scary about that is I was reading an article about teens and sexting and all of these different websites that are currently, up and running, and kids can meet each other wherever they want. And all you have to do is say, yes, I'm over the age of 15, or yes, I'm over the age of 16. And there's nothing real to verify these children's ages. So they're, in a sense, having interactions with adults. And in this article that I read, it was talking about be mindful of the apps that your kids download. Be mindful of who your children are talking to, because young children are, and even some adults, some of us are naive, have been tricked into meeting who they thought was this really cool person, this really down-to-earth friend, and end up never coming home again. So today is the day that the Lord hath made. We are talking about human trafficking and a play that is going to be shown June 9th and June 11th called Body and Sold. We currently have two of individuals that are associated with the play in the building. Let me introduce you to Deborah Lake Fortson. Good rising, Deborah. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine, thanks. Thanks for having us.
Talk to me again. Good rising, good rising.
Good morning, good morning.
There you are. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm well. Deborah, what is your association to the play, and why is this play important?
I'm the writer of the play, and it's a documentary play called Body and Soul. About 10, 12 years ago, I started getting interested in this topic because I heard about girls from other countries who were being trafficked from Nepal into India. And then I made a play about that, and a friend of mine who was a social worker, she said, Deborah, this is going on in this country. You don't have to go all the way to India to find out about it. And I said, well, tell me about it. And she said, 12-year-olds and 13-year-olds are being picked up out of their own backyards in front of their own middle school by a guy in a fancy car who says, come on, honey, get in and have a little ride in my nice red car. And this 13-year-old gets in the car, and she ends up in New Jersey in a truck outside a casino, where men come out and they service these men because they're too young to go into the casino. And the parents don't know what has happened to this girl. This is happening in our own backyards, in Dorchester, in Wellesley, in Cambridge. It's happening everywhere. And it's so hidden, it's hidden in plain sight. These girls are picked up by men that are attractive, that are seductive, that have a sandwich in their hand or a cup of coffee around the block. And then the girls eventually go with them for many, many reasons. The play that I've written is based on interviews with young Americans who ran away from home, and they were picked up by pimps. They were lured on They were seduced. Sometimes they were drugged and ended up in another city when they woke up. And then they were trafficked into the commercial sex industry. So we're doing the play to try to raise awareness about the topic and help to educate people so that they will start thinking about what kind of cultural change do we need in order to prevent this from happening. So that's why we're here today, to spread the word about these performances next week, Thursday at 4:30 at Hibernian Hall, and Saturday night at 7:30, also at Hibernian Hall. So we really appreciate being able to be here this morning and talk about it.
So you wrote this play
That's right.
because of something that interests you many moons ago.
Many moons ago, I wrote a play called The Yellow Dress, which is in schools a lot, and it talks about domestic violence between teenagers. And it opened my eyes because I had not much information about that myself. And I started to think about the way girls especially have trouble saying what they need, and they have trouble breaking out of a relationship where someone is being abusive to them. So that sort of set me to thinking about what happens to girls worldwide. And this topic of girls actually being kidnapped or lured on and then held captive and used for sex, commercial sex, is kind of the end of the line for that topic.
What does that mean, commercial sex?
It means they're being sold. It doesn't mean that someone is just making love with them in the hotel room, but they're being brought to a hotel room and sold to many, many customers in a day.
So the parent in me is like,
Right.
Where's the adult? The parent in me is like, who's walking into these situations and saving these girls? Is there... Now, we've heard stories about task force and computer encryption breakdowns. How are we finding these girls? How are they coming home? We have our Save the Girls, the
Right.
Boko Haram, kidnap girls. And we think that that's the only time that women or girls are trafficked. I have so many questions.
Okay, well, let me start with something Lieutenant Donna Gavin said at one of our play readings. She's the former head of the Human Trafficking Unit for the Boston Police Department, and so she has a lot of experience with what's been going on in Boston. She said, though anyone can become a victim of sex trafficking, the majority of teenage girls and boys and young adults involved have experienced intergenerational violence in their homes, and thus have ended up in public welfare systems as a result of neglect and abuse. And this can happen in any socioeconomic group. It's not limited to people that don't have much money. It happens all across the board, that kids are alienated from their homes, that there's violence in the home, or there's psychological violence in the home. It doesn't have to be hitting a kid to make them want to run away. You're just not being understood. One of our survivors talks about finding out that he's gay when he's in high school and telling his parents, and then they just try to change him. They want him to go to a psychiatrist and change his mind. So he eventually runs away from home, ends up in New York. And then he gets picked up by a pimp in New York. So the alienation from the family and the difficulties in the family, it could be a family that has troubles among the adults, where they might be drug addicted, they might be sick. One of the parents might be incarcerated, leaving another parent with a big house full of kids to take care of, and it's too much. So there's all that. There's also just one parent might be alcoholic. Maybe both parents are alcoholic. Maybe, they live in the suburbs and they're not able to relate to their kids. The kids run away. So we have 100,000 kids a year running away in the United States. Now that means also including someone like myself who ran away and spent the night, and came home again the next day.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of the statistic. But some kids run away and they stay away longer than one night because they just don't want to go back home. If they're on the street, within 48 hours, someone posing as a friend is going to offer them a cup of coffee, a sandwich, and a place to stay. And that person is most likely going to turn out to be a pimp, or someone who will bring that child to a pimp, who will then traffic them.
So we have for those that don't want to call in, 617-282-0062. We are also currently live on Facebook as well as live on YouTube. So if you are in your car, you're breaking up as far as static is concerned, feel free to log on to Facebook. We are live as well as live on YouTube. What an amazing topic. This is so real out here for our youth. Chelsea in particular has a big issue with youth human trafficking. That's something I did not know. So here in Massachusetts, I was unaware we even had a task force to battle this.
We do. There are a number of agencies that help girls and boys once they have gotten off the street. And the mayor's office actually has a big task force called CEAS, Cities Empowered Against Sexual Exploitation. And they are working to try to raise the punishments and the difficulties for the Johns involved, with the idea that if you stop the demand, that will shrink the ability of the pimps and the entrepreneurs, as they like to call themselves, to make money off girls and boys.
What is being done to save the children? Are there people that are, because when I think about this, I'm thinking about it in the scope of, I can't think, his name is John something, and he has the TV show, and he's just like, you were coming to have sex with a young girl. Before you get arrested, is there anything you have to say? And you think it's just that simple, it's just that easy. Are there task force like that kind of going undercover, catching these men that are seeking out, a 14-year-old boy or a 12-year-old girl?
I presume that there are, and we know that in Cambridge, the Cambridge Police Force is working on that in that way, to entrap people and then follow them off. It's very difficult to get hold of the pimps, and sometimes maybe easier to get the Johns, but in previous years, we did a bunch of guys. Amy has given me a sign that says a bunch of guys. Do you want to explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have Amy Murrow, who's also in the building. She's sitting right next to us. Go ahead.
There's a lot of activity to try to stop this. Deborah was talking about the role that law enforcement plays, and we have been meeting and working with detectives from the Cambridge Police Force, and as Deborah mentioned, Donna Gavin, who is former head of the Human Trafficking Unit. But there's also a kind of a relatively new group, which sort of speaks to what you just talked about, Tayla, which it's called A Bunch of Guys, and they do kind of try to catch the Johns or sort of conduct their own sting operations. So I think that what we're saying is that there's a lot of activity to try to combat the problem, but the problem unfortunately still persists. And the internet has made it very easy for the meetups to happen. It's a kind of, I think we know that there's an ugly side to the internet in terms of purveyor of porn sites, and also as a way of setting up these meetings. Thanks.
This is no. Come back, Amy. Come back. Tell us who you are and how you represent the play.
My name is Amy Merrill. I'm a playwright in Boston, or in the Boston area. And I actually have been working with Deborah Fortson on this issue for quite a long time, 10, 12 years ago. I joined her when she was producing the play locally. I joined her as a producer. This time around, I've been working with her also as a producer, and our model this year has been to do readings and talkbacks at theaters all around town. So to date, we've had 5 readings at area theaters. And
hold on, I just wanted to, she looks so uncomfortable right now for those who are watching. So I'm going to go ahead and try and make her a little comfortable. So there might be some discomfort for the listeners for 5 seconds. Come sit, baby.
Thanks. Thanks, Tayla.
You're welcome. I could not watch you bend over any longer. So have a seat. Go ahead. Is that high enough for both of you? You
Yeah,
guys
that's
good?
fine.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
continue.
So recently we have been doing these readings and talkbacks in the Metro Boston area. And as I said, we've had 5 readings at area theaters: Central Square Theater, Fort Point Theater, Charlestown Working Theater. We had a reading at Boston University, at University of New Hampshire. But we are really excited about these upcoming events that will be happening June 9th, June 11th at Hibernian Hall. We're very, very pleased and honored that the director for the show is Jackie Parker, a playwright and actress. I hope that many of you are familiar with her work. She's been presenting at Hibernian Hall for a long time, and she has also assembled a wonderful cast of young people. So the shows are June 9th at 4:30, and that's 4:30 in the afternoon. And we're hoping that this is a show that young people can come to. It's free. And then the second show is June 11th, 7:30, and that will be for, a general audience.
Would you advise adults, parents, to bring their children out either on the 9th or the 11th? Is this a kid friendly? Because this is a very, sensitive, touchy topic that, kids don't even like to be in the same room when people are on TV kissing, let alone talking about, what I may or may not be talking about on my cell phone and what could possibly happen to me if I persisted in this behavior.
I think parents need to come and hear about this. It could be that parents of young children should come themselves, and then they would figure out how to talk to the children about the topic, or maybe figure out how to tell one of the stories that what happened to a child. I think it's tricky telling scary stories to children because they get scared of everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's old German stories telling about the guy that's come and snip off your fingers if you steal something, and kids worry that there's really such a person that's going to do that.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, but so there should be an age limit, but I don't know if it's a solid age limit. Obviously, since this happens to 12 and 13 and 14-year-olds, we want them to know what the signs are, what it means to look around and find a guy as being friendly to you, how to analyze what he's there for, But not any 12-year-old should come, We're saying that maybe it should be 15, should be the age that you would start thinking about bringing kids to this show. But definitely parents need to hear about this so that they can start thinking about what could the schools be doing? How could the schools help to prevent this from happening by letting kids know what to look for? By having kids have a phone number. We have signs everywhere in the city about being hurt in your home for women, right? There's signs in my doctor's office. There's signs in the church.
The doctor asks you, do you feel safe at home?
Right. So, but no one asks kids that. Maybe they do if the kid is in trouble, but maybe children, and this is one of the reasons I wrote the play, is that it's very hard for children to speak up. It's very hard for girls to speak up, but boys too. Every child has trouble speaking up if it's something that they think they're going to be judged for, or chastised, or hurt because, you brought up that topic. We don't want you talking about that. So we all as adults have to get used to the idea that we better start talking about this, that we better have it in our heads that it's happening and not just turn the other way and say, well, it's happening over there. Every time we've done the show, I ask the cast, did you know this was happening in your town, in your neighborhood? And they say, no. And I say, well, where did you think it was happening? And they say, oh, maybe Russia or maybe New York, but not Boston. But it is happening in Boston. So for parents, it's really important that they come. And again, I would say, I wouldn't bring a child younger than 15 unless I had already talked to that child about dangers on the street and stuff like that. But the play does not have active sex in the play.
Okay.
They're not acting out what they are talking about. They're telling their stories. These are people who were in places that were helping them get off the street, get housing, get job skills. And so they had been basically in therapy groups and had told their story many times. So it's not a raw story, but it is a story about somebody coming and taking sexual advantage of a child, someone under 18. And then that child going on and being in the sex industry for many years in some cases.
Do we know the current number of survivors? Like, is there there were 2,200 survivors that were found in 2015. Like, do we have that number of sex trafficked youth that have been recovered in a sense, or?
I don't have a total number. I think people have numbers, but they can have numbers for people that have come off the street and are being helped. The people that really are doing this work are Roxbury Youth Works is doing it. My Life, My Choice is doing it. So they're actively finding girls, helping them get their lives together again. And in many cases, the survivors go on to become social workers or to become able to help other
else.
Girls and boys. Yeah.
And we have a call on the line, but you say boys, and when you think of sex trafficking, you don't think of male youth. So let's go ahead and take these calls on the line. 617-282-0062. We are talking about Body and Sold, a play using real world of youth who got caught in sex trafficking, written by Deborah Lake Fortin, directed by Jackie Parker. We also have Amy Merle in the building. We are giving away tickets from now until next week. June 9th at 4:30 p.m. is the free event. If you are a guidance counselor, educator, if you are a youth worker, if you work with at-risk youth or any type of youth over the age, we're saying 15 might be that age, please bring them out to the June 9th, 4:30 p.m. Hibernian Hall. We also have another event, June 11th at 7:30, and we're Body and Sold. This is a topic that is widely ignored because we feel like, that only happens in Thailand. That only happens in Asia. Like, no one's over here stealing kids and having sex with them. Prostitution is real and it's, lucrative. Why do people want kids? But it's a huge business, baby. Huge business. 617-282-0062, or you can remain anonymous. TaylaAndre. Good rising, caller, you live. Good rising, baby.
Hello?
Hi, yes, it's you.
Yes, good rising. I just wanted to make a comment. The writer of the play had actually mentioned a short time ago that this tends to happen in our backyards. Hello?
Yes, we're here. We're listening.
Okay, I just want to I'm sorry. And I actually have a friend whose daughter ran away a few years back. They lived in Roxbury, so it does definitely happen in the backyard. And she was, I believe about 13, 14 years old. And she ran away and she was actually gone for about 4 or 5 years. And when she came back, she had reached out to her mother over those 4 or 5 years a couple of times, saying that she was being moved from state to state, that she wanted to come home, crying, so on and so forth. Her mother had been very active in putting word out there, working with the police, flyers, social media, putting her picture out there, just trying to seek assistance. Have you seen this young lady, so on and so forth. And when the young lady finally came home, the last time she called her mother, she's home now and she's doing wonderful. But before she came home, she called her mom and told her that she was in California and that she wanted to come home. To get to the end of the story, she was able to break away from her captors who were pimps. They were taking her from state to state, and basically, for commercial sex, as the writer stated, and she was able to get to a police station because she had been under guard, for lack of a better term, so that she wouldn't get out of anyone's eyesight. But after 4 or 5 years, she was able to get to a police station, and when the police went to the hotel where she had been kept, of course, her captors had taken off because she took off, so they knew pretty much that the police were on their way. But when she came home with a 2-year-old child. I have no idea who the father is because it was during that time. So I think that is wonderful that this subject is being brought to light because it most definitely happens in our backyard. It is not people across the street or people on the other side of town or people on the other side of the country. It most definitely happens anywhere and everywhere. It could happen.
Wow, I can't, really quickly, if you don't mind me asking, when she came home with a 2-year-old child, like, did she have to undergo any psychiatric or like sit down with any type of counselors? Because listen, you take me for my kids for 2 days and I'm a different person. I cannot imagine being a child away from my mother for 5 years, and every time I get to a phone, I call you, like, my stomach is turning and I have goosebumps all over my body, just the thought of what that young lady went through. Is there any, when she came home, was there any psychiatric help that she needed, that she seeks, does she attend now?
I'm not sure if it continues now. She's been home for, I say about 8 or 9 years. But I know that during the time that she was gone, her mother was going through therapy. And when she returned, there was family therapy that had taken place as well. The young lady had, her mother ensured that she had counseling available, and it ended up being family counseling as well.
Wow, thank you so much for that story. Love and appreciate you. It actually putting a face to the conversation, that it's right here in Roxbury, right in our own backyard. We cannot think for 5 seconds this has nothing to do with us, because it does. Thank you for sharing your story.
Okay, you ladies have a wonderful day.
Well, we hope you'll come to the show. We would love to meet you.
I think we lost him.
Yeah.
That is that's crazy. If you guys have any other stories, please share them. 617-282-0062. We have another caller on the line. Verizon caller, you live.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Hey, Mr. Nubian. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Brace
You know what
yourself.
I find
He is
interesting about
abrasive.
this country? They'll have a war on drugs to target people of color, brown and black. They'll have a war on terrorism and just basically pick on Muslims and dark-skinned people from the Arab world, but never a war on first sex. You know why? Because white males, that's their favorite crime. You go to any airport right now, on the weekend, you'll find white males going to these 3 destinations: Thailand, Brazil, and Dominican Republic. And that's why they like poverty, because that's the only way we can get that. We go to poor nations and exploit them. If you really want to catch these joints, just go to the airport and start flagging them. But they don't want to do that because they're the cops, they're the judges, and these liberals that come around, these white women talk about, oh, you know what is so evil? It's your uncles and brothers who are doing it. And most of them know it when we go to these countries, but they think, oh, he's different. He's probably going down there to be a missionary. Yeah, he gets little Maria Bible on Friday and he's breaking her on Saturday and Sunday. So, if you want to get the place, how about turning your relatives that like to be teaching as sex tourism destinations?
Mr. Nubian, you never cease to amaze me. Thank you. I love and appreciate you. You don't have to agree. 617-282-0062. Is there anything that you would like to say to that? I do know that, when I personally think of sex trafficking, the first thing that pops into my mind is me being a young girl watching like an episode of 2020, and it was a doctor who went overseas. He was in Thailand, and they did like this whole investigative report about how the doctor was, going to Thailand for medical reasons, going to help as a missionary. And he was like exploiting little girls and little boys. And then he came home and had his license revoked. No, it wasn't his life. It was something along the line that, at the end of the story, he was convicted of this, and this. He served this, and this. But based on the type of medical work that he did and based on the state that he lived in, he could still practice whatever form of medical work he was doing, which could put another victim in his hand. Like when I think about sex trafficking, I think about men that go to the sex. You don't think about the sex that comes to the men. And I do know that there was a lot of conversation when it came to Super Bowl. And they talk about like how sex trafficking is really high during Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
So for what is being done as far as, you know, these very powerful men that seek very young children? Do they see the inside of a jail cell?
That's a really good question.
Increasingly, I mean, this is not to sound too melodramatic about it, but this is a problem that we're only just beginning to talk about. And to the point of your speaker, Mr. Nubian, he's absolutely correct, because the face of trafficking in the Boston area, we've been told by, again, Donna Gavin, the face of trafficking is a young woman of color and a white man. So that
Are you serious? Because Mr. Nubian says some things that people are like, I can't believe he just said that. But he's right.
Mm-hmm. He's correct in that a lot of the Johns come in from the suburbs, and they are executives. They are people with straight white collar jobs, and they come in and they find young girls, and the young girls service them.
Mr. Nubian, I want to publicly apologize for anything that I felt while you were talking. When my eyes rolled, I apologize for that. Because little did I know that the words coming out of your mouth were 100% true. This is, when you have all of that money and you can buy all of the sex in the world, why would you want a child? As a parent, especially, why would you want a child?
This is a great question. What a great question. Any parent that I know has trouble imagining that, right? But men also, you were talking about going to other countries and the guy going to Thailand. It's not just a doctor that goes to Thailand. It's many, many, many businessmen who take sex tourism flights. And a lot of them go through Atlanta. There's sort of a big business in Atlanta recruiting these guys. There are sex tours. Now there's a organization in Brooklyn called ECPAT USA, and they are working really hard to educate the airlines and to flag guys that are going. They go to Thailand to find a 9-year-old girl, but they also go to Atlanta. There are many sex tourism destinations.
I'm feeling some type of, I'm disgusted right now.
It is disgusting.
I hear you. It is disgusting.
You said sex tourism.
That's what it's
called. They
called.
go on sex tourisms. They spend their frequent flyer miles to have sex with a child.
Well, a child, yeah, someone under 18, definitely. Often 13, 14, 15.
You know, caller, I acknowledge you on line one. I'll pull you up, 617-282-0062. We're talking about sex trafficking, body and soul, the play using the real words of youth who got caught in sex trafficking, written by Deborah Blake Fortin, directed by Jackie Parker. We have Amy Morrow in the building. I'm 100% disgusted. And I'm mad that this is actually a real thing. And the fact that Amy's like, listen, we don't even have real numbers. This is something that we're just beginning to understand. We are beginning to uncover. So there's so many questions that will go unanswered when it comes to sex trafficking. Parents, guard those babies. Be mindful of what's on those phones. I know for a fact that as a parent, when it comes to my daughter, I'll let the boy go and wander all day long. But as far as the little girl's concerned, it's like, no, you have to stay in the backyard with your chastity belt on. Don't go nowhere. And now to think that she could be picked up from school, she could be picked up it's 2016. We're letting our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders on school buses now. We're putting them on the MBTA bus. That's what I mean. We're taking them off school buses and putting them on the MBTA bus. We don't know who we're letting our kids on the bus with. Are the schools aware of this? Like, you don't even have to answer because we have callers calling in. But I'm wondering, like, do the schools know what kind of environment they're putting our children into by putting them on an MBTA bus and we're having conversations that sex trafficking is in the backyards of Roxbury, picking up little kids. Like, there's no need.
Tayla, I'm sorry we ruined your day.
It's not I'm thinking of the little girl right now who's in a hotel room who wants to do nothing more but go back home, that regrets. And I was that runaway child. Like, oh, I can't have extra supper. I can't have any dessert. I'm running away. Like, I was that kid. And imagine if somebody snatched Tayla up. And who would Tayla be today if I was snatched up at 15? The first time I ran away, I think it was 12. If someone snatched me up, I ended up getting pregnant at 12 years old. I was so naive. They could have been having sex with me and I didn't know what it was. There's babies out here.
That's right. Lots of babies.
I'm sorry for the dead air, but this is a lot to consume. 617-282-0062, Verizon Call You Live.
Yes, I was doing a report when I was in college in 2006, and it was on sex trafficking, travel, tourism. And in it, I'm bringing this up because I want to tell you why they do this, these white adult males who do this. It's one, UNESCO, I believe it was UNESCO, who did a report on sex trade, trafficking, travel, tourism. And they said they interviewed a retired U.S. school teacher who bragged about being in Brazil with a 14-year-old and having last week been in Colombia with a 2-year-old having sex. And they were flabbergasted and says, well, don't you know these are children? He says, well, if it wasn't for me, they wouldn't have food. I pay them. I remember going on a date with this guy who was a Vietnam vet. And how the subject came up, I don't know. But he said that he had a sex with a 10-year-old and he laughed about it because he said she had no breasts. Ha ha ha. And laughed about it. And I said, well, didn't that bother you? He said, no, we paid her. His whole platoon, he said, our platoon paid her.
Our platoon paid her. Girl, if you don't, oh Lord, I have no words.
And they said, this was in 2006 when I did this report, and they said at that time that child pornography and child sex trade is a $6 billion industry. And these are judges who are going to these children, teachers, police officers, armed forces who are going to these children.
The caller makes an important point. This is Amy Merrill again, because we're talking about sex tourism, and the point that she made, which should be underscored, is the economic hardship. That one of the causes that creates this unfortunate situation is economic hardship in countries like Brazil, Jamaica, Haiti, that really, that this is a form of income it's a form of income, and that it's very often economic hardship that drives these young people to be put in the situation, or for other people to put them in the situation, because they profit from the income that the young girls and boys make.
So one of the messages I just checked for Facebook, TaylaAndre, or you can give us a call, 617-282-0062, 617-282-0062. Thank you so much for your research. Thank you so much for that information. One of the things that Anonymous said online was that when it comes to sex trafficking and, youth in third world countries, sometimes it's the mother and the father selling the children in order to make ends meet. And
this is true. They sell them to people that come to the children, in the home, but they also sell them directly to traffickers.
Fine. So that the traffickers end up owning the children and can resell them over and over again?
Yes. In a sense, yes. I mean, of course, no one can own another person. In fact, that shouldn't be possible. But often a child will be sold, and then she will be told, well, you can go free as soon as you earn the price of what I paid for you. And of course, that price gets out of reach because he will say, well, yeah, but I'm feeding you and I'm clothing you, so you're using up everything you're earning, which isn't true. But then they never feel, it's like indentured slavery. So they feel as though they never can pay back the trafficker. And of course, they don't want them to go because a young girl or boy is a renewable resource. It doesn't get used up.
I'm so disgusted that you just said that. Is a renewable resource.
That's what a pimp thinks in terms of it's a business operation. And that's I hope I'm being disgusting.
Kids?
I hope I'm being disgusting because it is disgusting.
Because I can understand if you don't have children and you think about this or engage in this a certain way, but if you have, I feel like your entire life alters, your entire mindset alters after you have kids. I can imagine that if they had children, they're like, hey, another renewable oh my gosh.
I think they do tend to have children. We just heard a story from Sarah Durfee, who works with Emmanuel Gospel Center in the South End. And she was talking to a guy who had been in the trade, who had been a pimp. And he was in his 50s. And in his 50s, he suddenly came to his senses.
Okay.
And said to himself, this is bad, I shouldn't be doing this. And he stopped.
So he was a pimp or he was a child pimp?
No, he was a pimp.
For adult women?
For child women. I mean, picking up girls and pimping them out.
See, because, all right, help me wrap my head around this.
Right.
Is there a difference between a grown woman, a woman who decides that she wants to sell herself for sex? Are those women sometimes in those indigent slaves spots too? Like, do they not have a choice?
What we are told by everyone, especially Mia Alvarado from Roxbury Youth Works, is that almost every woman who is working in prostitution has started as a young girl and was introduced to prostitution by someone else. You don't wake up when you're 12 years old or 13 years old and say, oh, I think I'll be a prostitute in general. Although our culture is so much glamorizing the life of the pimp and the myth of the wonderful prostitute that, some kids may think that that's a great job selection. But in general, kids don't think that. So what we hear is that most adult women who are in the business got into it as children. That's not true across the board. There are, of course, women who are older who select to do it because of economic reasons. But primarily, it happens young.
The Body and Soul Project has really been focusing on young people, on young
on runaways.
People who've left some kind of abuse, violence in the home. And so we've really been focusing on young people. The stories in the play are from young people who, I think, as we said a while ago, started getting involved or getting in trouble as young as 12 or 13. I should also just talk up the talkback that we're having on June 11th. So we'll first have Deborah's play, and then we'll have a talkback. One of our panel members, responders, help us reflect, is Sarah Durfee. She's Sarah Dunham now from the Emmanuel Gospel Center. She's also the chairman of the Mass Coalition to End Human Trafficking. We're also very fortunate that Kim Willingham, who's active with the Shatter the Silence group at Bethel AME Church, will be also joining us. So we will be hearing from people who are active in different faith-based organizations talking about how they have taken a stand against this, the work that they're doing. And this is another important part of the Body and Soul Project, which is to present Deborah's play, but also to bring in people who are active in the fight to end human trafficking. In the past, we've had members of law enforcement, social workers, community activists. This time, as I said, we'll be hearing from people from faith-based communities as well as community activists. So that's a very important part of the program, and we hope that you'll come down June 9th at 4:30, which is a free show that's aimed at young people, youth workers. And June 11th, that's a ticketed show. You can buy tickets at Hibernian Hall, www.hibernianhall.org, or you can purchase tickets at the door. That show is at 7:30 p.m., Saturday, June 11th, 7:30 p.m.
And I understand there may be some free tickets coming through this radio station, so
Absolutely.
stay tuned for that.
Thank you for that. I don't have any questions. I really don't have anything to say because I am never at a loss for words, but I am so disgusted by the truth of what's going on and how hidden it is. The fact that nobody talks about this, that this is an open discussion on a regular basis, not that I'm scared my child's going to be kidnapped, but I'm scared my child's going to be kidnapped and put on the internet and sold on the internet for human pleasure, like for a grown man. And I can't believe you guys confirmed this. I wanted Mr. Nubian to be so wrong that men from the suburbs are coming in looking for little black boys and girls to rape. It's rape.
It is rape.
We have not used that word once. It's rape.
Since we've ruined your morning, Tayla, I just want to tell you that there are a lot of very good and dedicated people who are trying to work on the issue. The issue still persists, but I think that all of us have seen that some of these people that you're talking about, Tayla, these terrible people, are beginning to go to jail and go to jail for a long time. So just about 2 weeks ago, someone who was running a whole ring is going to jail for, I think, 30 years.
That's not long enough because one girl that you sold into slavery had been raped over 30 times. So how about we put you in jail how many times you put somebody through hell? How about the years of times that you've taken away my youth, you've taken away my innocence, the amount of times that you need? How about a life consecutive of 175 years? No, 30 years is not enough for me.
I think you're right. Because in many cases, it's not just taking away the girl's innocence, it's taking away her health,
Yeah.
her life in some cases. We just heard from a federal Homeland Security speaker, Peter DiMarzio, at a conference last week. He was talking about girls that come off the street and have to have all their teeth replaced because they've been hit so often that they've lost all their teeth.
I'm done.
Okay?
I'm done.
So,
So done.
yeah. So what we want to do is start this conversation. It's a nasty conversation. It's not fun, but it's a conversation that has to be had. And it has to come out of the shadows. So we hope that people will come out to Hibernian Hall and start this conversation. We don't want to be telling you anything from experts. We're going to tell you real stories of real children.
And those are the experts because they lived through the hell.
Exactly. And it's in their own words. Most of this play I did not write. I took notes. I transcribed. These kids were recorded and they gave their permission because they wanted to have other people know their story so that people would be aware of what was happening.
Thank you. I want to say thank you because I can only imagine how many of your friends and family are like, are you crazy? Like, this is what you're going to focus your life on? Seriously, this is somebody else's problem. This isn't your problem. And for you.
Women not speaking up, girls not speaking up is all of our problem, men and women. Boys not being able to speak up, that is all of our problem. If our young people cannot feel who they are with confidence and speak up when something's going wrong, we're in trouble. We're in trouble as a society because we're losing leaders if they're being repressed like this.
we have another caller on the line. I want to apologize because I am completely out of character. I have all the words in the world every day, but today I am at a loss for words, and I'm thinking about, honestly, I'm thinking about that 2020. I'm a visual learner, and I'm thinking about how they ended the show with the little 8-year-old girl seductively looking into the camera, and how at 8 years old, that's a learned behavior. Like, and just what they're teaching a 12-year-old and what they're teaching a 13-year-old on how to please this 38-year-old man, this 42.
But now you're going to get onto the topic of the hypersexualization of young girls in this culture and how we teach little girls to be pleasing in that way. It's part of what we do. So there's lots to change in the culture. There's lots of change to happen in our attitudes towards children, especially. We talk a good talk in this country about how much we love children. But if you look at whether young children are supported by money to help parents that need daycare for them, you're not going to find that money. A parent who has too many children, or even one child and needs to work, they need daycare. We don't do that.
We walk the walk, but we talk the talk,
But we don't walk the walk
at
That's
all.
Right. That's right.
Good rising caller. I wanted to acknowledge you, but we are coming to the top of the hour, but good rising caller, you're live.
How does the government continue to let this be a billion-dollar industry?
Say that again, baby.
How does the government continue to let this be a billion-dollar industry?
That is an excellent question. Do you guys have any idea?
No, I think that it's a big, big question. And if you think about the other big industries the government doesn't control very well, one of them is guns. And this industry is second in line after guns in terms of worldwide revenue. Guns and then arms, right? The government doesn't do too well about trafficking in any of these things. So there's somebody making money somewhere, and there are people who don't want it to stop, obviously.
So, say that again, baby.
Are you saying that they're in the government, the people that want to continue this billion-dollar industry?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that if you look at other things that are trafficked, that are illegal, none of them quite as disgusting, although you could say that guns are disgusting in some ways. It's very complicated who gets the money and where the traffic leads. So I think you're right to assume that it could lead anywhere, but we don't know.
Thank you so much for your question. This is mind blowing. Apparently, we have somebody from the ER who says that we see cases like this come through the emergency room. What can we do? All right, maybe we can end on a good note. See something, say something. What can we, the people, do? What does this look like? How can we save a young girl? How do we, make sure a grown man is caught? What is there? What resources do I have that I can help this situation in some way?
I would say the first resource that we all have is to do education to prevent it from happening. In other words, as you pointed out earlier, Tayla, talk to your children. Give children phone numbers to call, not just the home number, but a way to reach somebody that can help them if they do get in trouble. The main thing is education. Go into the middle schools, the high schools, and let kids know what is happening. That would be the prime thing to do.
There also, increasingly, this subject is becoming more and more on people's agenda. So I think another thing is to be aware of your other resources. You just said someone called in from an ER. I mean, there are agencies, I mentioned some faith-based organizations, but there are agencies that are working on this and working on it together. And I think that's a model. When we presented the show at the School of Social Work at University of New Hampshire, at the panel was someone from Homeland Security, someone from a local social service organization, the as someone from law enforcement in Manchester, and they stress the importance of working together. The other thing is that just as we're talking about the importance of treatment, and with the opioid problem, treatment and prevention as a way to approach this terrible problem, I think the same is true here. We have to talk about prevention, education. If we want to lock people up, let's lock the right people up, the pimps and the Johns, and not victimize or criminalize the young men and women who get caught up in this.
This is crazy.
There is, by the way, been a great step forward that has happened in the last few years where the young people have been decriminalized. So if a young person is brought in to a police station, they're no longer booked for prostitution. They're given help.
Well, I thought that should have been the first thing. That would have been the common sense thing to do in the beginning.
Absolutely. Well, it only happened in a fairly recent time. When I first started working on this play, it was still a criminal act. And it has been decriminalized in this state.
So if you're 17 years old, you're booked for prostitution. You're prior.
Prior, you were, right. And
where's the adult in the situation?
Well, the adult ran away.
No, I mean the adult in the police department. Who says like this 17-year-old child was no words. Well, I can't get them out of my mouth.
It has changed though. We have to say it has changed.
It has changed.
The culture is changing.
The culture is changing, and we are suddenly being able to recognize that these children are victims. And that's acknowledged in the Safe Harbor Act that has been passed in 18 states.
Okay, so we have more states that are still asinine.
We do.
Oh,
we
Lord.
live in Tayla. We live in a state that actually is sympathetic to this kind of problem, but it doesn't mean that the problem is ending. But we're just starting the conversation, and we're trying to do it with the play Body and Soul. So we hope to see you all at Hibernian Hall, 184 Dudley Street, June 9th at 4:30, June 11th at 7:30. You can get information www.hibernianhall.org for tickets and performance information.
And for more information, you can go to our website, bodyandsoul.org.
And don't forget, from now until throughout next week, we'll be giving away tickets. We won't give away tickets today because I'm overwhelmed. I don't have any words right now. I'm at a loss for words. One of the things that I want to say is just be mindful of your children, the apps that they download, the people that they call friends, and just, like she said, educate your children, your child on what it looks like. Please come out to Body and Soul so you can get the information so you can then pass it on to your children. I thank you guys so much. Could you please, how can we get in contact with you directly if we want to bring this into the schools, if we want to bring this into our youth, however we may want to get in contact with you, how do we go about that? Again, Deborah Lake Fortin and Amy Morrow.
Right, and our information line would be Tempest, TEMPEST, at rcn.com. That's the email, Tempest at RCN, like Robert, Charles, Nancy.com.
Okay, Tempest, TEMPEST at rcn.com. If you have any questions, for either one of these women, you can contact them through email. But as far as the tickets are concerned, you can win them here, Big City 101.3 FM, Waking Up with Tayla Andre, or you can purchase them www.hibernianhall.org. I thank you guys so much for this conversation. I would love to have you guys back on maybe in a couple months so we can revisit this conversation, see what has changed as far as legislation maybe, and just I do want to talk about the over-sexualization of girls and how this plays a role into men's needs and desires. I don't know if you guys, so I'm about to get a little Freaky Friday real quick. So I brought this up a few weeks ago when I was talking about tastyblacks.com, my favorite site on the whole wide world, and how I was really turned off because it goes by, the different genres are repositioned every day based on the need or the demand of people watching. And I was turned off by the site because my favorite category was all the way at the bottom where it had two grown folks doing grown folks things, and 18 like teen was one of the number one, it was in the number one spot, like teen or youth. It turned me off to the whole site that's the number one demanded viewers want to see kids have sex and little pigtails and school uniforms and backpacks and lunch boxes. Please don't mind my curiosity. Like, I wanted to see what people were actually crazy about, and it's teddy bears. It's those ugly black and white shoes your parents put on you as a kid. Like, it's ridiculous, but it's real life. And I need you to be mindful when it comes to these babies. I need you, when you pray at night, please put somebody's daughter, somebody's son who is kidnapped and what did you say? A human resource? No, what were
A renewable resource.
A renewable resource. That is
That's
so
gonna
disgusting.
keep Tayla.
I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope I made somebody honestly as disgusted as I am today. When two or more touch and agree, I hope that we are all in agreement that something needs to be done, and whatever it is that we can do individually, let's pray for that. I don't know what that looks like, but I'm definitely on board for that movement. Again, I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm sorry that it's hard, but we got to do it. Have an amazing day today. Mwah. This is so hard.
Your phone started shutting off. It said it was overheating.
Yeah, it does that.
I'm just looking for my keys. What did I do with them? Oh, there they are.
Oh,
Well, Tayla,
You were terrific. Wow.
what a, I know we ruined
I
your
have no
morning.
words. See, but you don't understand. Like, I have words. I have words for everything.
Right.
I have no words for this.
Okay,
Let's
well,
put it, yeah.
it's
bad news.
sickening. And last night I was watching the rehearsal, and I'm watching young actors. I'm not watching young people, and I'm feeling the sense of dread, the sense of anxiety. So Tayla, we'd love to see you down. I'm sure you're a busy woman, but
I didn't want to say this on air, and actually, let me. YouTube, I love you so much. Thank you, love you, appreciate you. We're gonna keep the conversation going, and keep people in the know about this very important subject that I was ignorant to. So forgive my ignorance for us not discussing this at an earlier date, but everything happens for a reason. Love you, appreciate you, and hope you have an amazing day.